a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expanding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Tyler Hansen, welcome to the show here. You are the fittest flat earther, and I don't know if that's an accurate thing or a challenge, but either way, I love it. I love what you're doing. You have some fascinating videos. I found you on TikTok and Instagram, which will both be located down in the show description. You guys know how this works. Tyler, inviting you to the show here. Will you please tell our audience just a little bit more about you, man? Explain this fittest flat earther thing that you got going on there.
Absolutely. Well, I'm 43 years old, and I think for the first 42 years of my life, I was pretty blind to a lot of things. I'm a teacher. I grew up in a pretty well-off community, a northern suburb of Chicago, where reality is money and intelligence and the physical world. So even though I didn't, I didn't partake in a lot of that. I came from a single mother household, and I didn't have a car like every one of my other friends growing up and things like that. So, I knew I lived in that type of atmosphere, but I never considered myself, snooty or anything like that. I always had an open mind, always was a hard worker. And for 42 years, I thought the physical world we lived in was really all there was. If someone were to ask me if I believed in God, I did grow up in a Christian Catholic family, but it's like Irish Catholic when you go to church, and it was for a funeral, for a wedding. And if someone a year ago would ask me if I believed in God, I would have probably said yes, but it would have been a yes, and maybe 50% we die and get buried, and that's it. And the other 50% was, there could be something. And in the past year, my reality has completely changed. I have experienced a ton of paranormal, spiritual, UFO, just a lot of stuff that has changed my world and caused me the past 6 or 7 months to just like dive into truth and get to the clearest vision of what truth is to me versus what I was told truth was for most of my life.
This truth journey, man, it's a wild one that we talk about. It's interesting. I want to run a concept by you. I've talked about it a bunch on the show. It's just my personal philosophy of what's occurring as far as I can honestly speak to it from my perspective, is that truth is so temporary. And it seems that what we're experiencing here is just this series of temporary truths where one thing that we feel so certain and strong about holds us on enough to really be empowered or embodied. I get the psychological aspect of having a truth. And then perhaps, but I feel that, this is kind of my question to you. Do you feel that that's a thing, that temporary truths exist and that what you know now will change in the future based off new information?
100%. With the caveat is on my beginning kind of truth voyage, I went down these avenues and these rabbit holes and things with, something, for example, like the moon. I thought I had this truth of the moon, that it was basically a giant space station. And like, I was convinced.
It's so much fun. I get it. I get it.
And I had these different things involved with that, with what I thought the things in the sky I was seeing were, with things like aliens and reptilians. And a lot of that has changed. And once I came upon the flat earth truth, that took like the final blinders off. And I'm always trying to learn, and I'm always trying to get to the bottom of truth. But since I have come across flat earth and that truth, there's nothing I've said needed to go back and say I was wrong about that. Now, am I learning new things a lot? Yes, but it's never I'm never going back and saying, I was wrong. The moon isn't a space station. Since the flat Earth journey, or since that moment, I've learned about flat Earth. There's not a time where I'm going back and I'm like, I was wrong about that. So I'm still open and have an open mind and want to learn more and keep expanding what truth and reality is. But I haven't had to take anything back. So it's like a yes and no to that question, I guess.
Yeah. And then even in all the flat earth truths, what if you find out that it's really a dimensional realm, or that you're a brain in a vat and that it simulates that, so you would have perceived it that way, though not necessarily by definition it is a flat earth. Does that make sense?
It does. But part of what flat earth did to me was, the best way I can relate it is like the story of Santa Claus. When you learn as a child that Santa Claus was a lie, it kind of like the blinders are off and you don't go back to believing in Santa Claus. And there's a lot of things that flat earth does with that, where it takes the blinders off and you're like, okay, there was intentional deceit. For example, like if you find presents in the closet as a kid and you're like, Mom, why are there Christmas presents in here? And like, oh, those are for someone else. Or, like once you figure out what the lie is and what the intention of the lie is, it doesn't allow you to be fooled in that direction again, if that makes sense.
Absolutely does. And to your analogy, Santa is a beautiful one, because you find out that, yes, you have been lied to about Santa in general as the concept. But whenever you get out of that, you're only told that Santa's not real and that it's been mom and dad. But when you kind of go as an adult, then phase 3, or a new temporary truth that you come up against, because this is based on historical fact, right, or written his story, is that Santa Claus is actually much more interesting, because then as an adult you find out that it's related to the Amanita muscaria mushroom, and then it's like a whole new level to having fun with this place, And I feel like that's what temporary truths allow you. They allow you this freedom from what was, but then also the ability to expand into new things with new information, and yeah, like you said, build on that. So the fact that Santa isn't real from a child's perspective as it was being presented to you is absolutely true. But then from there, it builds on it from further knowledge with it. It was actually something super dope having to do with mushrooms and psychedelics and dope shit in Siberia, right? So it's this fascinating sort of build upon that, like you're talking about, that you're experiencing, man, which is badass. Okay, so you mentioned the fucking moon, bro.
Yeah.
What's the moon, dude? What do you think the moon is, rather? That's how you ask that question.
Okay. Well, so before, I talked about how I was potentially 50-50 God or not. And I was never a Bible guy. Never, like, I was on a podcast the other day and I joked. I was like, literally, the only time I ever touched a Bible, the first 42 years of my life, was if it was on a church pew and I was at a funeral and I was moving it out of my way. Like
rolling papers. They make great rolling papers too, if you're in a pinch.
I thought it was, a lot of parables, a lot of figurative speech, and never did I think that it was literal until I had this view and this vision of what the world was, and I already had it and hadn't compared it to the Bible at all. And then I pick up the Bible, and page 1 of the Bible starts talking about the luminaries in the sky and the firmament and all these things. So I have yet to come across something that contradicts what I believe with lining up with the Bible. So to me, the moon is definitely not something physical that you can send astronauts on to land on. I believe it's either some sort of reflection of our realm or plasma. I definitely think it could even potentially be holographic in nature, but there are a lot of things I believe about it. What I would say I know is that it's not a giant dusty space rock that is reflecting the sun's light at us. I would say I know that.
Well, you know that from the measurements of the light that comes off of it, right? It's colder
exactly.
than it is in shadow, the light coming off of it. So already it's illuminating and producing its own light, as well as how it's viewed through the Ma rays, or the black parts at night, are then blue in the day. So it's almost like it's transparent in that way.
Yeah, exactly. And even the way, like you can look at how light reflects off of sand or things like that. Like we would not get that dense or that bright of light from something from dusty sand reflecting the sun's rays from 93 million miles away.
Well, and how was any of the moon pictures visible if taken at all because of the damn glare that was shown down from it, right? Wouldn't they be just bombarded as if they were standing on a mirror reflecting everything back? It's so bright.
Yeah, exactly. The inverse, what is it? The law of missing it. The inverse law of light says there's something to it where, depending on the distance you get, the way we see the moon, if you were on it, you would literally be just blinded. There wouldn't be any chance to see.
They'd have to send Stevie Wonder up there, just to navigate the shit.
Yeah.
What a wild concept, though. I love the moon. I love it. It gets more fun. See, this is what I'm talking about. You find out that it's not what they said it was, but man, it gets so much more fun after that. Because even in the space model, like you said, the Alex Collier work with the hollow moon and that it was a planetoid brought here and all that stuff. And that's sort of built on the idea that ancient cultures said that there was a time before the moon. But again, it doesn't presuppose that space is real just because of that. It just means that there wasn't a visible thing in the sky called the moon a while ago, and then all of a sudden that there was. It doesn't mean that it was brought here physically, maybe projected, like you said. It's just interesting, man.
Yeah, and I 100% thought for sure, like I went down that rabbit hole and I saw things that said the moon wasn't here, and if it wasn't here in ancient writings or ancient even hieroglyphics, things like that, then where'd it come from? So I was deceived down that rabbit hole of it is for sure a giant spacecraft brought here.
Yeah, which again presupposes that the space model is real, which is what I think those type of rabbit holes are all about. Yes, they're fun as shit, but again, it presupposes all of it builds on that model. Same, and I've talked about this as well, the additional Apollo missions. Have you heard about that? The 18 through 20?
Yes. Yeah.
17 through 20, something like that?
Yeah, and Planet, what was the one? Planet Serpo or something like that.
Yeah, Project Serpo. I love that one. That's fun too, right? They went out there, and then I've got a book called The Thaluba Prophecy. Fun shit, and I love it. But again, all of it presupposes that one thing, that it's based on this model that the astronomers and mainstream science have been, science with a dollar sign, not an S, have been selling us, right?
Yes, exactly.
So what about UFOs?
Well, we can get into that. So what led to my truth journey, and I shouldn't say that 42 years I wasn't, that I was just kind of closed off to it. I knew about 9/11 many, many years ago. I've always been health and nutrition conscious. So I've kind of like what's the deal with the food pyramid? So my eyes have been open, but I never had this desire to seek truth until probably about May last year. And I think what led me on this was, it sounds silly, but I'm a dog dad. I don't have any kids of my own. My dog was 15 years old. He was on his way out. I'm sure as a way to cope with that, it wasn't a conscious decision, but I was diving down the rabbit holes of near-death experiences. And I think I just was trying to see, is there more to this world? Because I was just like a believer of science and all that. And that kind of led me on the alien rabbit hole. And I was like, got to be here. There's UFOs, the government's hiding it. They're aliens. I'm going to prove this to myself once and for all. So started digging into that. That led me to Dr. Stephen Greer's stuff with the CE5. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, sir.
So I downloaded the app. I was very skeptical. I'm like, I'm going to give this a try. But I watched a lot of different videos on how people would capture stuff in the sky. And I tried to have an open mind to it, but still skeptical. So I tried it. For anyone of the listeners that don't know, it's basically you go through a meditation and there's some frequencies and tones and things that kind of are supposedly supposed to kind of let them know your location and things like that. Tried it, gave it my all, nothing happened. Probably within a couple weeks, I came across another woman who was really big into the UFO and the Galactic Federation and astral travel, remote viewing, stuff like that. And she gave something, it was a mantra that I don't even think I want to share it because I don't want people to go down and do it, but it was a mantra that would basically kind of clear your mind of this reptilian DNA that we supposedly have. So I had this mantra, I had the Stephen Greer stuff, and I started just really believing that I could call things to me in the sky. And lo and behold, I literally started doing that. First time was I was outdoors and just was like focused and speaking to the sky, show me something, and saying this mantra. And in the distance, this, I'm looking at it and I can't tell what it is, but it's coming right at me. It's not, and I'm like, that's not a helicopter. It's not a plane. It's not a bird. It's nothing I've seen. It's pulsing. I don't have my phone on me. I was actually at school when this happened. I'm a teacher. I don't know if I even got into that, but I was out. A PE teacher is outside at school. Didn't have my phone on me, so trying to keep an eye on it. I'm like, I got to get this recorded, just because I'm like, people are going to just think I'm insane if I'm looking at this and have no proof. So I'm trying to keep an eye on it. Probably a minute goes by. It's still coming at me because it was in the distance, and it's close. And as soon as I grab my phone to get it on film, it doesn't disappear, but it goes from going at me to just immediately takes a right turn. I got it on film. It looks like an orb of pulsing light. And at the time, I 100% thought it was ETs that I communicated with them telepathically. And I was like, nobody's going to believe me, but I have stuff on film. So I was like, at least happy I had that. 2 more times I did that, and they came to me in orbs of light. They were pretty high in the sky, but they were literally circling me, orbs of light. And one was much lower and almost looked like it was checking me out and zoomed by like maybe 20 feet above my head instead of the hundreds of feet these were above, and got that on film. And then I did it a third time. And then the third one I didn't get on film, but then the fourth one, I did it. The last time I did it was around the time I had I was having some, I was noticing there's more to this world than just the physical. I was starting to be open to the supernatural, to the spiritual world. But like my family wasn't really believing things I was saying. I was starting to be open to God. So this last time I spoke directly to God, and I was like, I was on a walk, and it was a totally overcast day. I'm on this path by myself, and I closed my eyes and I'm walking, and I said, God, please show me something that I can, 1, know you're real, and 2, like have evidence to show people that I'm not crazy. And I'm walking and my eyes are closed, and I kid you not, it's like, it was a Chicago, like, April or May day, and it's so cloudy and dark. And with my eyes closed, it seems like someone came and shined a flashlight like right in my eyes. And I opened my eyes, and the only beam of light in the entire view of my vision, like the entire peripheral, is a cloud, or a hole in the clouds opened up, and it's shining directly on me. It almost looked like out of a movie where you see like a UFO beam light down on someone and they're getting beamed up. But it wasn't. It was sunlight coming through. But within that hole of the clouds came another unidentified flying object, but this one was different. The other ones were orbs of light. This one was like, I would say it was like 3 kind of like, it was like a tripod of orbs like this, here and here, but all translucent. And it was just like nothing I'd ever seen before. I pull out my phone. As soon as I go to record that one, clouds close up and gone. So at the time, I believed that all to be UFO, ET in nature. And since then, I truly believe it is much more spiritual, either demonic, because I've had, around that time, I started having some demonic attacks and sleep paralysis. So I think it's demonic, or, just spiritual. So maybe not the bad guys, but maybe some angelic type things as well. But I no longer think it has anything to do with extraterrestrials coming from other planets or galaxies. So I know that was a lot, and I will let you go at it. Any questions you might have?
It was perfect, and I'm grateful that you explained things as thoroughly and as well as you did. You're eloquent, brother, and that was awesome. Well stated.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
it's interesting, too, though, that you note that you did meditate and have communication with something. And, I'd invite you to share that mantra. But if you feel that it's not apt, or you feel that after exploring that it's not valuable for people and they want to reach out to you independently, you change your mind, that's fine. But we're not going to push you to do so on this show here. But
I don't, you know what, I'll share it. I just caution the audience. I thought it was a harmless thing. I thought it was just a mantra that, and I'm not saying the mantra is the cause, but that added with other things and maybe me just being open to it. But it was simply, I choose to disengage my reptilian DNA. So I have full sovereignty over every aspect of my reality. And I would just say that. And I had other things happening around that time when I started to do that too, like clairvoyant things, like where I'd go to a casino and be like, 33 is going to hit on the roulette wheel, or tell a guy asked me next to me, like, what number to bet on. And I had 28 in my head all day from a vision I had, and then he won thousands of dollars. So some weird things were happening around the time I was using that. But at the same time, also the demonic attacks, which I do not wish on anyone. So just word of caution. That's all.
do you mind sharing those now that you've given us the keys to unlock what you said you can experience with that? Let's hear the side effects. You know how in a drug commercial, it's only aired in New Zealand and America, by the way. Did you know that? Illegal in all other countries. Drug commercials, pharmaceutical commercials advertised to the public. Illegal in every other country except USA and New Zealand.
I think that's, I didn't know that. That's very similar to what I know or what I've heard about using propaganda against your own country too, that
sure
it is legalized in the US. And I don't think a lot of other places. Yeah.
Edward Bernays' nephew owns Netflix.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
To that point, what I'm saying is that then now we can go a little deeper with that. So let's hear the side effects of this event. Please list those off for us.
Which event? Just the sightings?
Demonic. So after you said that thing, the side effects from the fun part of like seeing it and going, oh, okay, that was interesting. Yeah, I got something on camera. Okay, something's a little verified. And then you had some shit times out of it. You know what I mean? Like there was a potato chip that claimed to have anal leakage one time. So what is the anal leakage equivalent to the take on that you did?
Was that the Dorito ones when they came out?
The Wow chips. They came out. I want to say 2000
or Elistra.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
Elistra,
not around anymore. I don't think.
No.
Now you get your anal leakage from Chipotle. Please, sir.
All right. Well, so I've had dreams my whole life. I've remembered dreams. I've had nightmares my whole life, and they were all. I would wake up, and some felt real, some didn't. But like, there was never a time where I didn't wake up and say that was a dream. And around the time I was waking up to just the true nature of this place, or the truer nature of this place than what I used to think. I used to think just physical place. We came from monkeys, evolved from billions of years ago. And when I was waking up to flat earth and just spirituality, I knew that there was something else here. At the time I thought it was, reptilian beings but like, I knew there was something else here. And in this dream experience, I was, and I should say this too, is I've come across some pretty strong evidence to me that there is, people talk about shapeshifters and things like that. And I've come across some pretty strong evidence that I do think that exists, whether it's technology driven, whether they have super high tech that can literally cloak them in holographic technology to not see their true form, or whether it is chameleon in nature where they can literally just blend in. I think that exists. And I was aware of that at the time. So anyway, in this dream experience, I'm falling through darkness. Like it literally felt like I was in another dimension, just falling through darkness. And I am wrestling with a shadow creature, a being with no face, but I'm clawing at its face, like I was trying to get him to expose himself. Like, are you a reptilian? Are you a demon? Like, what are you? I just had this need to know, and I'm ripping at his face. And I wake up and I am in bed with my wife. It's probably 3 or 4 in the morning, and I am frozen stiff, but fully aware, fully conscious. Only thing I can do is like move my eyes from like side to side and look, but can't move a muscle. I tried to call out for my wife because I've never experienced anything like this. I literally tried to yell, and there wasn't even a murmur. It wasn't even like, ooh, it was just dead. And probably 4 or 5 seconds later, it literally felt like my soul got like shot back into my body, and then I could move and I could speak. I told my wife about it, and she was kind of like, go back to bed. It was a dream. But I knew it wasn't. You know, it was something I had never experienced before. I went back to bed just because I was like, I don't know what to do, but it was 3 a.m. So I was like, I'm going to just gather every bit of gratitude and love and everything I can. So I just like thought about everyone I loved and God, and just tried to get this like good vibrations going to go back to bed. And then I went back to a place that seemed very not dreamlike. It was too real. And I'm in this just like endless blue, clear water, like almost like flying, but it's in water. So I'm kind of swimming, and it's like, it was the most like magical, surreal experience ever, but the complete opposite of the fear I had in the first one. And I woke up again, but this time, it was lucid dreaming a little, because in my mind, I'm in this water and I'm like, oh, I'm in water, but I know like my body is back in my bed. But if I'm in water, like maybe my body's not knowing to breathe. So I just had like this little moment of worry in my dream state, and it snapped me back to being conscious in my bed again. The same thing, I had sleep paralysis again, but there was no fear. I just had this like feeling of like love and warmth in me. But then again, it felt like 5 seconds later, it literally felt like my soul like smacked back into my body, but totally different than, you know, a half hour earlier. And, you know, I had never heard of sleep paralysis. I have never experienced it. And I have since then again, but, you know, upon researching it and seeing that it is a common thing that happens to people as they're kind of having a spiritual awakening and relating it to demonic attacks, like that's what I felt like I experienced in that first one, was some sort of alternate realm or dimension or something, literally wrestling with a demon of some kind.
Do you practice out-of-body experiences or astral travel?
I don't anymore. I've kind of, as I become a Christian and more of a believer in the Bible, I really don't choose to dabble in that stuff anymore, but I was for sure trying to. I really felt like I was starting to lucid dream a lot, and starting to, like, I was confident I was going to be able to remote view and astral travel. And that experience kind of, I don't want to say scared me off of it, but the negative experience I had with that, on top of becoming a believer in the Bible, just has kind of steered me away from it.
Have you ever done psychedelics?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Similar experiences are reported in both instances, which is why this is interesting. I am curious with your, okay, so we had a guy named Michael Cameron on the show. He has got PTSD from some very traumatic experiences his entire life, and it continues to this day. Like when we spoke with him, he was 6 months out of his last experience, and it's all my lab now and crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you talk about like horrific things that happen to people like this, it's like that they have contracts or agreements with some sort of demon or entity. Mm-hmm. Now, do you feel like that was something that you brought upon yourself by calling the UFO in?
Yeah, I do now, for sure. Like, I think I opened up, basically, I think I put a target on my back, you know, like, I think I communicated with some demonic forces in nature. And I think, you know, part of me really thinks they leave people alone that don't have a concept that we're living in a spiritual world. And, you know, I think because if you were to, you know, if there's a demonic attack of someone who isn't in the knowledge, it kind of lets them know like, hey, there's more to this world. And, you know, I I think a lot of the deception in the world, even going down to like living on a globe, I think has to do with hiding the true nature of living in God's creation and living in a spiritual realm. So yeah, I think I for sure invited it in unintentionally.
And it's interesting that you say whenever you got after your dream, and those events are, yes, juxtaposed. You have one that's horrific and awful, and then that can be interpreted like you were just wrestling yourself, right, through to some people. Maybe an archon that's running this whole damn thing. Who knows? But then the other one, nice, so it received energy from you in two different ways, right? This, whatever it was, if an energy component is what's going on here, it received it in a shit horrible way, but that falling wrestling dream, and then it gave you a little something like a little, hey, thanks, here's a towel, wipe up, kind of a thing afterwards, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting too whenever you talked about sleep paralysis, because what Michael was talking about on this, how he explained it, made a lot of sense because of his astral travel. That's his perspective. Because of his astral travel work, he talked about that sometimes there's a delay in not only getting out of your body, but back into your body. And that's what true sleep paralysis is, that it can be brought upon by some entities or something like that. But essentially, it's those that practice out-of-body experiences pretty much regularly or astral travel. They sort of experience this more sleep paralysis than other folk, like me or something, right? Because I don't do either. So it's that momentary like, oh shit, I can't move, but your soul's just like, I don't know, give him one more kiss goodbye, right? And then it'll be here in just a second, and then you're able to animate. So, but it was interesting that you had two different experiences at it. One, you had the confidence that your body would return to function because you'd already gone through it. Kind of like having a bad trip and then taking it again just to have a good trip. But then also you had the nicer experience, which then brought you into more confidence with it that it wasn't that bad of a thing. So
yeah, right.
In that experience, though, you had two completely different types of experience there, but you still feel that it was demonic in nature and like not positive at all.
I think we probably have a little bit of ability to control it, and I just don't know if I'm, I'm just me. I think we all have some pretty extraordinary powers that we're not told about, and that, I think some of us can dive into more than others. And I think I've tapped into that a little the past year, but I don't know. I'm so curious to try more because I really think I have an ability to do it, but I just, JC says not to dabble in that stuff. So I'm as surprised. If I heard myself saying that a year ago, I would have probably laughed myself off, but, oh no, I just really try to follow a lot of what the Bible says, if not all.
Well, listen to you, homeboy, man. I like your conviction. I tell you what, I am uber curious about dogs and mainstreams and dogs in the star. So I'm a dog parent as well. We have a new rescue, Yokai. She's amazing, a little healer Australian Kelpie mix.
Oh, cool.
We have a huge 12-year-old husky mix running around here somewhere. We are also animal folks. So please tell, I have to hear about this, about the dogs.
Yeah. Man, there's, I can get into it pretty deep. But I guess let me give the short of it first, and then we can dive in however much you want. But basically what I have found, and I truly think that I've never heard anyone else talk about this, and I'm not saying I'm special or anything. I think there was some divine intervention of me figuring this out. I think that the controllers of the world, I believe them to be, Luciferian, satanic, bad people that lie to us about everything and lie to us on the news. I think they intentionally hide images of dogs in all their lives. So an example would be the submarine that imploded going down to look at the Titanic. I found literally it's like an underlay. So if like you're watching a news clip on it, there will be hidden dog faces like in the submarine walls. I found it in the Apollo 11 mission. They literally show the Earth from the Apollo, and there's like just a big old dog face there. So part of me thinks it's a way to, it's kind of like the revelation of the method. They're showing us, they're mocking us, but why I think it's dogs is because I think the Luciferians of the world like to mock God every chance they get. And how do you mock God? You take his name, and I know it's just the English version, but you take God and you flip it backwards and it's dog, and you're mocking, God's gift to humanity. You're mocking God all in the same way. And it's, hey, we're going to lie to your face. and put this dog image right here, and you're too blind to see it, but you're still going to believe this lie. So I believe that. And this is the crazy part. I think people can wrap their heads around that. But, I mentioned the moon being potentially holographic in nature. I think all the stars are holographic in nature. It's not just a crazy thought. I feel like it's been proven to me through looking at the stars, through telescopes, through Nikon cameras, and their dogs, their dog images in stars in every single star I've ever looked at. And what I used to think that meant potentially was that stars were angels with our dog souls in them. And
adorable. I like that one.
I do,
Fuck, that's a children's book, man.
All dogs go to heaven.
Yeah.
And but I don't think that's it anymore. There's just too much coincidence with them using dogs in their mockery on the news. I've found them too much, and I can share a screen with you and show you some cool stuff.
Check out the video in the show description down there. Also, all this is played over there on Patreon for free. So if you guys want to go sign up, transcripts actually also are going on over there as well. So if you want to read what we did here, you can check that out or follow along, whatever. Go check the link in the show description to check out all of this dope ass shit he's about to show us right now.
Before I pull it up real quick, I'll just say, and I'll make it the quick version. I figured this out totally. I literally feel like God took my face and pointed me in a direction and was like, look, you idiot, look what I'm showing you. Because I don't think I would have it's too the amount of, and it's almost like my past 10 years or 15 years of my life were meant to happen this way. I'm a weightlifting coach. I'm a discus coach. So I used to, not as much anymore, but I used to spend hours upon hours breaking down slow motion video of people lifting weights and throwing discus and going frame by frame by frame, analyzing, looking for one little tweak. So I'm just in tune with studying film and seeing things that most people don't. So I think that upon literally I had just a weird star experience that made me explore a star just up close, because it was around the time I was figuring out flat Earth and figuring out that stars aren't what we're told they are. They're not, balls of gas millions of light years away. So I can't take credit for it. I really think I was divinely inspired to figure this out, and it sounds insane, but there are dogs and stars, and I'm going to show you some evidence if you want.
This is awesome. Fuck yes, we want. Dude, show us the dog stars. Because serious, right? And that you see, and you're going to go into this, but I'm not going to get ahead of you here, but there's a lot of stuff, man. Yeah.
And so I'll pull this one up first. Can you see it already?
Oh my God. Yeah.
So
what the fuck?
So literally these are both stars that, I took a video of them. They're flickering. But then when I slowed down the star flickering and went frame by frame, I found this image. This one looks a little more like a fox, but I tried to get a comparable.
It's like a Shiba Inu hybrid. Yeah.
Yeah. And this one just happens to look almost exactly like my dog, a golden doodle.
Adorable.
So, but it's funny you said that. So this is kind of what led me is I had something, it sounds stupid, but I had something on a star finding app happen to me where the star was just finding me, and not the actual star. So not in the sky, but on the app. I had used this app 100 times, and the star kept following wherever the cursor went. The star was following me on the app, and I never had that happen. And I was like, what is going on here? So I screen record it, go back to it a couple of days later, and I'm like, what? And it was pulsing a little. So I zoom in, and it looked like dogs were in this screen. Okay. So I'm still talking about the app, the star in the app, not the actual stars. But I'm like, why are there dog faces? I'm like, is there some sort of glitch in technology where this app is stealing pictures of my dogs and putting them in the star in the app? So I was just confused, and they looked like my dogs in it. So I was like, maybe there's just something weird going on. I showed my wife, she never sees anything I show her hardly, but she was like, yeah, it looks like there are dogs in that star. So that prompted me to figure out what star it was. And I knew based on its location, it was near Orion, that it was Sirius. And I went and I researched on YouTube, and I found, I found dozens of people's videos of Sirius, so I'm not just blindly following the first one I see, but every single actual video of the star Sirius through a Nikon, through a high-powered telescope, I'm finding these dog images. And that was before I even knew it was the dog star. I'm sitting at school one day. I'm like, all right, it was Sirius. Let me research Sirius. And it said the dog star. I'm like, what the hell is happening here? So crazy. And here, I'll pull this one up too. And this bigger.
Wow. Okay. I see that one. Yep.
Well, so let me point them out too. So this one here, can you see my cursor?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So here are the two eyes, like it's looking up at you.
It's like
this
a little,
one,
what do they call those? It's like Wishbone the dog. God damn it. Something terrier. Anyway, go ahead. I'll think of it.
I mean, this one, sure. I think you just see here, this one down here, two dogs, their faces are next to each other. So here's two eyes and the nose. And then this one's kind of like only a half face. I see it.
Yes.
Here's an elongated dog face. Here's the nose here. Eye, do you kind of see like it's here?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Now I see it.
Another double dog face. So two eyes here in the nose. It's literally two dogs smushed against each other.
Yeah.
And then this one is the two eyes and the nose. And you know, like I've shown this to people like David Weiss, and at first he was like, well, there's such thing as pareidolia. I'm like, David, every flicker has a dog. Like, it's not that I'm spending hours looking for ones that look like every flicker of a star has these. And he was, I actually talked to him on a live call-in show of another podcast, and you know, he definitely didn't shrug me off, but he's like, I don't discount anything now because I discounted flat Earth, and now like I'll look at anything. And I hang up and then like 20 minutes later, he's like, you know, he's like, dog. He's like, I can't get over that. He's like, what do dogs give us? And the host is like, unconditional love. Yeah. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, what does God give us? And he's like, unconditional love. And he's like, dog is God spelled backwards. He's like, there's something to this here. And that was still when I was of the belief potentially they were angels in the stars, but I don't think that anymore. But man, there are dogs in stars. There are dogs in the stars. Man. Yeah, true.
What a nice, you know, I got to be honest, Tyler, this is such a nice twist. You know, what a fun twist to have dogs in the stars. Like, it's nice, dude. We've been talking about archons and soul traps, prison fucking planet, man, and you're talking about that all the stars are dogs, and they're adorable, by the way. I see what you're talking about. We share the pareidolia, and I don't often share what other folks point out in clouds to me, you know what I mean? I'll be like, no, it looks like this to me, and then that I can't unsee that, you know, or morph my perception to see the little bunny before it changes, you know, that they saw.
Right.
So, but it's interesting with yours. I'm like, I see what you're talking about. I'm smelling what you're stepping in. Interesting.
Yeah. Let me really quick. I don't know if I had it pulled up, but I want to just pull up one of these stars that. Maybe.
Do you have one frame by frame where you see it turning into different dogs? Yeah,
that's what I was trying to look for.
Okay. Well, there you go. This is awesome, though, dude.
It wouldn't send. What if we go to?
What about the idea that God or this realm is ran by a balanced force of God, meaning that God is both Satan and God, the altruistic, the demons and the angels, it's all God, right? Nothing separate from the totality of that which is God. So do you think that maybe even putting that in shows that it's the inversion of God, right? Because what we're shown is that God, like the God in the Bible, some people have said, and I want to have that conversation with you. I'd be honored to, actually, that if you actually go through the Bible, the God in the Bible is actually the devil, and it's Satan. And there's scripture that will prove it throughout, meaning that everything here is an inversion, even the Holy Scriptures and everything. And you can also see this sort of Hegelian dialect through the Bible, meaning that the Old Testament God seems very different and has changed his attitude quite a bit to the New Testament God, but there's an in-between called Jesus that God supplies. So it's problem, reaction, solution. And so it's sort of this Hegelian dialect that plays out. But also, again, if you look at the work of sort of Chan Thomas and things like this, the Apocalypse of Adam, that the snake was actually trying to help and trying to get us to the wisdom to see that we were being bamboozled and trapped here in a way. What I mean to say is, then we would say that if it is ran by a balanced God, the fact that it's spelt backwards and provides unconditional love rather than the God that slaughtered the 10,000 babies, right? That God that's spelt properly, let's say, from our perspective, it would be more of a truth telling, right?
Yeah. And, you know, like I do have some thoughts with that. I think, there are a lot of, I think God runs this place, and I do think Satan is loosed on us right now. I think we're actually living in Satan's short season, but I think that God allows that, and there's got to be some sort of reason for that. And, for me, maybe he's trying to figure out like who can be tempted still. If we're going towards like a new heaven and new earth, and he just wants that place sinless, maybe he's just making sure that all the people that end up there are the ones that can be his true followers. So he allows Satan to have these deceptions of the globe and the Big Bang and evolution and aliens. And these are things in my opinion, of course. But yeah, I see what you're talking about. I could give some thoughts to that.
I'm just curious, again, because dogs are so unconditional loving. But again,
Right.
God, when you spell G-O-D, and even the gods, when they're in Genesis, right, the plural little g in God, it's just, they're kind of, I'd like to have a conversation with them about their methodology, is all. But what I will say is, this is absolutely fascinating. I had a question from a mutual friend of ours, Kelly Harding, who, shout out Kelly, she's incredible. She wanted to know something about the Renaissance artists, and did they know about the holographic nature of this reality, and were they tapped into some pretty dope paint, like some higher technology paint? Because she talked about the microns thick layers of paint that's used today versus what was used back then, and that it was exceptional, and all these different techniques come out, and you can really speak to things, and they put so much symbolism into their work. So what are your thoughts on Renaissance, is that how you say it? That's how a Texan says it, Renaissance artists, and what they knew about the nature of reality?
It's a good, deep, tough question.
That's
I think,
Kelly did.
yeah.
Awesome.
Her and I have connected. It's been awesome. Like, she's one of the only people that literally comes to me with like, I found a dog in this, and she showed me the dogs in the in that was it Virginia, the Virginia house explosion.
Yes, yeah, and
there are dogs hidden all in that thing, man.
Yeah, and she finds wild orbs all over the place out there and films these things and puts it up. In fact, I'll link her. She just started a TikTok, so along with your TikTok, I'm gonna link hers down there as well, so you guys can check out who we're talking about here, and shout out Kelly.
So, like I do think we're living in I do think there a lot of the stuff in the night sky is holographic. I am a believer that we do live under a firmament, a dome of sorts, but I think it's different than, I think where we're living now and when we're living now is different than, way different than what we think. I think our history is a complete lie, total nonsense. A lot of that has to do, in my opinion, with hiding God. But I don't, there's some Bible verses in tribulation that talk about when, in Revelation, when tribulation happens, the stars will fall from the sky. So I am a believer that we were already post-trib. I think Jesus came back and had his 1,000-year millennial reign already. And that is what we refer to as the dark ages, because everything's inverted. I think there was actually 1,000 years of just beauty and bliss. And I think there is so much evidence out there from beautiful architecture and things that would have, you can't even wrap your head around the way we're told that our history is, that people with a chisel and hammer could have made these amazing structures hundreds, if not 1,000 years ago. So I think we're living in this time post-tribulation, where in the Bible it talks about Satan being loosed on the world for a great deception. And I think that great deception is to try to hide God. And I think that because those stars already fell, like if they want us thinking we are still in a time pre-tribulation, then we need to be able to look up at the night sky and see stars. And I think the stars are there as a way to continue to deceive us from knowing our true timeline and nature of this place. That didn't really answer the question about the Renaissance artists, but I find that hard to answer that, because I think probably what they were seeing is different than what we're seeing, because what they were seeing may have actually been angels in the sky that were stars, because there is a lot of talk of stars being angels in the Book of Enoch and in New Testament and things like that. So it's a tough question to answer based on my view of the world.
No, it's a great way that you answered it, though, because they were looking at different skies. And that's what's so interesting, too, though, is because you talk about astrology and how it hasn't really changed, or that they can mark it based on what they call a tilt. There's a predictable angle in which it sweeps, meaning that precession of the equinoxes, right? Allegedly, again, over thousands of years, which may not exist at all. Maybe it's a simulation that I woke up this morning with memories that I have this thing going on and that, everything's cool. I got this cool dog talking to this cool guy. Maybe it all started just now. Who knows? But it's interesting when you start to expand this out to the higher concepts of, yes, that this is all inverted. And I've heard of this post-tribulation kind of shit time that we're living in here. The question would be, my friend, is why is our consciousness here now and not in the 1,000-year dope reign? What did we do wrong, from your opinion? Are we being punished? Or what is this, sort of an opportunity, like we were shitheads in all the lives when the thing was going down, and then now it's our opportunity to not be shitheads and to go into the kingdom?
I think there's a lot of talk of taking the mark of the beast. I think we could be either descendants that took the mark of the beast, whatever that might be, because those were people that wouldn't have their reign with Christ in that 1,000 years. So maybe that happened, and we're either descendants of those people, or we're those people ourselves, and just getting another chance, another crack at it to choose God this time. And, instead of getting a microchip in our wrist, instead of getting whatever's coming Neuralink in the future, maybe there's another opportunity to choose, if down the line, they're giving us the opportunity to live for 500 years or 200 years or endless because of technology. And if we're choosing that over knowing that there's a God and knowing that there's an afterlife and knowing that there's more to us than this flesh, then, one, it's another opportunity for us, but also two, it's another opportunity for us to fuck up again, really. And maybe God's like, hey, once I can see you screw up twice, no thanks. I don't want you.
Yeah, but why don't I have conscious awareness of that? I don't know. I would like more information is all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I think, when I was watching the near-death experiences, one thing that resonated with me a little bit is that we have had, we're spirits, and maybe we've had multiple chances, cracks at it, and that when we're put in the womb, that like our memories are just kind of wiped, and we're here to just kind of learn and have new experiences and see if we can choose God over all the other nonsense.
You mentioned Neuralink, and I know that you and you love Elon Musk. So talk to us about how much you love Elon Musk and how a couple of his inventions are just fascinations of yours. Please, sir.
Yeah, I think I really got into doing some rocket videos. There's the first one, like as a person who, and I don't say this arrogantly, but to me, there's a belief, or the difference between belief and knowledge. And, I believe that the moon is holographic in nature. I don't know, but I know we live on a level surface and not a spinning water ball. So I don't mean to sound arrogantly, but when I say I know, that's just how I feel. So
I must point out the confidence that comes with flat earthers. I just love it. All right. And I don't consider myself in any camp because I don't know what the fuck's going on here, but I love the that's sort of like fucking, what do y'all call them? Globe tards. I find the humor and the certainty incredibly cool. That's all.
I don't like to go down that. Like I try to, like there's so much divisiveness in it, and my whole freaking life got turned upside down becoming a flat earther. I literally lost handfuls of friends. My family thinks I'm crazy. My wife and I.
Do you consider it lost though?
Until recently, yeah. But it's like, like my best friend of the past 20 years, who I never would thought would have just kind of bailed on me because of my beliefs. And like, yeah, the more time and the more I give it thought, I'm like, well, if you weren't going to stick by me through this anyway, then, this was what was meant to happen.
If you don't love me at my roundest, you can't love me at my flattest. You don't deserve me at my flattest, right?
Exactly. Where was I going with that? So I try to stay away from the insults and things like that. But anyway, back to the original question, with being a flat earther and knowing we don't live on a ball with water spinning around it, it just makes you understand that the rockets going to space are intentionally there to deceive you. They're there to propagate the lie of space and other galaxies and other planets. So when I just was like, I need to like show people these things that will just help open minds to the fact that NASA's full of shit and that Elon Musk is literally the same as NASA. He's just the Tony Stark, so people can think he's cool and here to save the day. So I just was like I said, I'm good at breaking down videos. I'm good at seeing small things that other people don't see. And this was early on in my flat Earth days. I was watching a video of one of Elon's rockets coming back down, and you know how they land, they go up and they land perfectly, their boosters come on, and I'm like, this is such nonsense. Like, I could see it with my own eyes. So I'm like, I got to find something to help me prove this to people. And the very first one I find, the rocket's coming down, and there's this little black thing right here, and it does this. So the rocket's coming down and it floats back up and it attaches. And I'm like, well, that definitely wasn't a bird. And I zoom in and I'm like, that's a piece of the rocket that the rocket went up and it fell off. And then when they reversed the footage, it's a piece of the rocket going back and attaching. And that was before I was really doing stuff on TikTok or anything, but I made a comment on that video and thousands of people were ripping me a new one. Like, you're an idiot, like blah, blah, blah. But then I had the other side too. Like, yeah, good catch, bro. Like, anyone who believes this stuff is a moron. So that was when I first saw the divisiveness this can start. So I've tried to find every rocket video of NASA and SpaceX I can, and almost every single one I find some sort of anomaly or some sort of evidence that they're not what you think they are, or the video is not what you think there is, or something to, if you're a critical thinker, obviously videos can be doctored, but when you're going right to the NASA video or right to, like the source of the video, it shouldn't be doctored. Obviously anything can be doctored on TikTok or YouTube, but when you go to the source and you find these anomalies or different things that open your mind, I think that's pretty good evidence.
What about Starlink? What do you think that is?
Yeah, so I saw Starlink. I was in South Carolina a few months back, and I saw it with my own eyes, and I'm like, that is not, like, at the time I knew satellites didn't exist the way people think they exist. Satellites are on giant helium balloons, and they're in our atmosphere, and they're circling around. They're not orbiting space. So I knew that already, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, it looks like it's the exact same height as an airplane. I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's no way that's in space. But I'm like, I don't know what it is. And, me being of the belief of there's a lot of holographic nature to the technology we have on this world that they don't really let us know. I'm like, that is just, in my mind, I was thinking it was like a plane and then like something else. And it was just like shooting a hologram into the sky just to kind of, fool us into thinking there's satellites up there orbiting. And then started to dig into it and just, I found some pretty good evidence, and then like just piecing things together. I think it's probably a giant dirigible or a giant, what used to be called a blimp. And I think there's some technology that, it's probably maybe what the elites go up there in and have their disgusting pedophile parties. Or it literally just might be up there to deceive. But I think it's a giant, probably helium-filled balloon that you can travel in. And I think there's some technology that that looks up and projects what would be above it to below it. So as it's moving, you're seeing the stars above that it wouldn't block it out. And I found some good evidence of that, where like you're looking at the videos and the stars are like jumping. And so I think it's something of that nature. And I've done a couple TikTok videos of it that have, gotten some good responses. And I definitely do not think that it is a satellite up there. And one of the ones I did is talking about the size of it. And each Starlink satellite is supposedly the size of a table. Okay, so there are a link of tables. And then I found what the distance is supposed to be. And the distance is supposed to be 350 miles from Earth. So it's the size of a table. And it's supposed to be going 17,000 miles per hour in orbit. And if you look up any video, one, you're not going to see something 350 miles away that's the size of a table. I don't care how bright it is or how much it's reflecting the sun's light. And then when you look at it, you're like, no, it looks like it's going the speed of a plane, which is hundreds of miles per hour. And it looks like it's as close as a plane. So if anyone's listening, check out those videos. I think they do a really good job of kind of opening your mind up to Starlink. Maybe not exactly what it is, but what it is.
They're awesome. I just like the vision you have for this place. I like the way that your mind works. I think it's fascinating what you're doing, man.
Thank you.
So let's talk about fitness and truth and how important that is. So fitness, what's up with the fact that it needs to be, that this is your temple and you need to take care of it, man? How's that important to you?
Yeah, I wasn't awake to things for 42 years, except on the level of, and we were told a whole lot of things that aren't true about nutrition and about sleep and about things like sun gazing and fasting. And I think, that's intentional to keep us sick, to keep us needing them, to need to rely on others to give us medicine that's probably not making us better, but just amplifying things. And I think, for me, for many, many, many years, I was always a strong body and strong mind, but I didn't do a lot of soul work. And I feel like I've tapped into getting a strong soul. But I think if you're not someone that focuses on your physical well-being, I think it's really hard to be strong mentally, because it's just, one, it gives you a lot of confidence. If you feel good about yourself, then, obviously you're going to be able to handle things as they come at you. I think it is one of the, I've always been someone that I don't stress easy. I don't have a lot of anxiety until Flat Earth kind of flipped that on its head for a few months until I got a new grasp of what my reality is. But I've always just been kind of a calm, chill person. And I don't think that's just my nature. I think it's because for the past 30 years, I've done some sort of physical training almost every day, sometimes twice a day. And it's such a good stress relief. And if you put yourself through difficult things physically, then it makes the day-to-day physical things much easier to handle. So I picked, I kind of mentioned to you, but I picked the name Fittest Flat Earther kind of as a joke, hoping that I could convince some of the really fit people of the world. I'm big into CrossFit, and there's a whole CrossFit community of really just welcome, kind, health-oriented people, and kind of did it with the intent of hey, maybe I can get some of these really well-known with 1 million followers to get into Flat Earth, and they could dethrone me as the fittest Flat Earther and kind of just meld the two communities together. So far, it hasn't worked too well. Anything I do where I try to mesh a fitness, I'll do a handstand walk, and in my handstand walk, I'll say did you know NASA has 666 and all their numerology, and the heliocentric model is totally satanic. But anything I do with meshes the truth and the fitness, it gets 1,000 views versus 50,000 views. So I've steered away from it a little bit, unfortunately. But that was the initial intent.
I say do a yes and, never tell you what to do, Bubba, but I will empower you to be authentic. And I think you walking by on hands while saying one of those fun facts across a stagnant camera standing on the ground would fucking be hilarious, dude. Or you walk over the camera and face
I got one
it.
Of those. Yep.
Do that. Okay. Well, then maybe do that, and then do the robot walk off. I don't know. You'll make it your own, but I say not in either order. It's a yes and, dude. Just pepper those in. I like the personality.
I do, for sure. And, rope climbs and I'll say something, and muscle ups and say something, and I have fun with that. I think it was a natural, I already was a loser and to do some fitness posts and, let people know I was training that really don't care about your training, but I enjoyed that. Just one, it kind of kept me accountable. And that's kind of the fittest Flat Earther too, is when I dove down the rabbit hole, my training went to trash for a couple months because my priority was just seeking truth. So I was like, well, if I create this name, there's some accountability to it. I still need to like, can't show up like a fat slob and call myself the fittest flat earther.
Why not? The health ministers do, you know?
Yeah, a lot of PE teachers in my field too. That's what I do in my day to day.
Well, what I just, I'm curious, and we're not going to hold you to this, man, but what are some predictions that you have coming up in maybe in the next year, 5 years? What do you think 2024 is going to be like? Like, just do some Tyler Stradamonising for us, and just give us a little something. What's going on in your mind there?
Yeah. I don't like to fearmonger. I don't like, I've come on a few times. Like there was, God, what date was it? Was it, it was maybe it was 10/23, maybe because it was, or I can't remember. There was some date that just had a lot of, numerology with it. And I kind of did a post like, hey, not trying to fearmonger, just kind of like keep your head on a swivel. But man, there is a lot of thought, a lot of talk out there of some sort of either internet blackout or even a, full electric blackout. So I think I'm not a fear person, but I think it never hurts to be prepared. But I heard you talking, I was listening to one of your podcasts today and I heard you talk about it, but I've been feeling this and I've been saying it, but I feel like something big's coming. There's some sort of big change coming. And I don't know if that's, the fake alien Project Bluebeam that's coming, but I think it seems like whatever is going on behind the scenes with the satanic controllers that really run this place well, their timeline's speeding up and they're hurrying things along, in my opinion. It seems to be. So I don't know. I think people just need to keep their eyes open, keep their head on a swivel, and make sure they're spreading love because that's what matters most.
So you're going to be some sort of second coming, like third coming rather? Or you think this will all end at some point? Or do you think it's really all up to us in this lifetime to get it right for us individually and then decide where we go?
Well, it's a good question because I do, like with my belief of being post-trib, I do think potentially there's going to be an opportunity, or not an opportunity. I think there is going to be a fake one. I think a lot of the stuff set up is like literally the whole deception of living on a globe with infinite space. I think you can't pull off an alien invasion unless the whole world believes that there's aliens and unless the whole world believes we live in this infinite galaxy. So I do think there is something coming with that. And I don't pretend to know what it is, but I do believe that there is a spiritual war going on. And I don't know if potentially there's going to be stuff in the sky and it's spiritual in nature. And they want us to think, that's ETs or aliens in the lights we're seeing and all that. So maybe that's the whole reason maybe the alien deception is simply that, not an attack. But I definitely think there's a spiritual war going on right now. It's funny. I did a post and saw this weird thing. People were talking about the moon disappearing a few weeks ago. And, I felt like it was common sense that the moon goes through phases, and for the few days,
I checked it too. I was like, it's new moon, guys.
Yeah. Well, and whether you're a flat earth or a globe believer, like I just felt like that was common sense, but it did seem like it was missing for a few extra days. So I started looking into it and I came across this weird news video of David Copperfield talking about the moon and how he's going to create this illusion maybe in February where he's going to make the moon disappear. And I'm like, what is going on with this? So I saw that, thought it was weird, but on top of it, what they pushed with that was, hey, we're practicing this now. So if you see things in the sky, that's just us practicing this moon illusion, and you should report them to hashtag Copperfield. And right away, I'm just like there's something actually going on in the sky, probably spiritual warfare, and there's going to be like Clash of the Titans up there or something, and there's going to be something you can see, but they're using the mainstream and David Copperfield to make the normies of the world just be like, oh yeah, I heard about this. David Copperfield's practicing moon illusion. That's all it is. versus
What's
the fact
interesting,
that-
the naming of that dude too, and they use names, in gematrias, I know, very
Yeah.
important, but this one may be a little bit more on the nose with copper fields, because like in the Matrix, they call us copper tops, right? We're just batteries for shit. So
Yeah.
maybe a field of those would be a copper field, right?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And then you're doing hashtag Copperfield as if, hey, yes, I'm in with this. I'm part of the field of copper heads that you're talking about. Maybe.
Oh man. Yeah. Didn't think about that. That definitely could be something though. So I don't know, like something's big coming in my opinion, but could I put my finger on what it is? I don't know. Is there going to be, an antichrist? Potentially, I think I sent it to you that this Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing is just like so inorganic to me. It's unbelievable. And I think that when you look past what's presented to you with Taylor Swift, like I've seen her doing like this stuff a lot and as above, so below, like she is controlled by the controllers to the nth degree. And they're painting her to be this just wonderful human. And I could very easily see her having some serious sway in a really negative direction. And I really think they just, the whole Travis Kelce thing is to get people that don't know who Taylor Swift is and vice versa to just all be aware. And then Travis Kelce's pushing the jab right after that first game that they came out and like has Pfizer commercials. There's something going on with that is more than most people realize, probably not more than you and I realize, but I don't know. Something's going on with her, I think, for sure. Be aware of her and whatever she pushes on you.
Damn, dropping it. I love it, dude. Tyler Hansen, all the ways to find you will be located down below, dude. Leave us with something positive, man. I'm going to give you the last word, and we are going to sign up for a million more of these things, dude, because we have got to talk more, dude. This is a blast. And we'll bring Kelly on, hopefully, for the next one, man. But leave us with something positive. Keep us, fucking elevated. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say we hardly even got into the flat earth stuff. I would love to, but we can do it next time, maybe.
Yeah.
Get into some flat earth proofs. And like everybody, I thought it was the stupidest thing ever. I watched the movie Behind the Curve, and for a year, it made me think flat earthers were morons. I didn't realize at the time it was a mockumentary. It's designed to drive you away, just like all the sites you'll go to on Google and YouTube that are designed to drive you away. I highly encourage people to go check it out. Go on TikTok. This dude is awesome. He looks like a goofy looking blonde young kid, but he's just like spills truth, and it gives you things you can check out yourself. But his name is Caleb, with a K, Caleb F-E, as in flat earth. Go spend 20 minutes on looking at his videos and have an open mind to the fact that you might live on a flat, non-rotating realm. And for me, and this is where I'll leave you, the positive is that, like I said, I was never a spiritual guy. That proved to me, like a systematic evidence of proof that God is real and we are living in God's creation and he loves us, and all he wants us to do is kind of give him some love back. And I have literally felt like the presence of God like in me. I can just feel that spirit when I talk to him. So I know that to a lot of you guys that might sound crazy, and it would have to me a year ago, but go check out Flat Earth because it brings you to God.